topic.
Think
To the collective, where every conversation ignites a new perspective. Join us as we delve into the journeys of remarkable individuals, explore the art of growth, resilience, and the power of a shared mission as we strive to be better together. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Collective Workshop. I am super stoked for this one because we got Drew coming in for the first time. We got Jenny coming back after a while. You haven't been on the show in quite a bit. And of course, Shaun's here after his brief stroke with death. Let's see if he makes it through the whole show. It's going to be a good one. Now, while I am excited, y'all should be too. You should be doing the thing. You should be liking the show. You should be subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, doing all that good stuff, getting your emails whenever we go live, which is, of course, Wednesdays for the workshop and Fridays for the collective. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, anything at all, put them up in the comment section. We can hit those throughout the show. And of course, if you have not yet, make sure you're signed up for the Reinforcement Loop. That is our weekly newsletter. It goes out every week and it'll be coming out later today. So if you're not signed up, get on it because it is a good one. Other than that, let's get into some quick intros. We'll get right into the topic. Jenny, you're up first. Quick 10 to 15 seconds. Who are you working from? All that good stuff.
Yeah. Born and raised in LA. Currently a counsel advisor for small business owners, specifically restaurants, hospitality spaces, in regards to leadership.
Bam. I like it. Drew, how about yourself? Oh, I lost your audio, Drew. I think you... I completely lost your audio. Give me a sec. We'll hit you back in 1 second. Shaun, how's life out in the mountains treating you?
Yeah, things are good. They'll be better when Drew has a voice. Nothing really new going on here other than I almost died the other day, but no big deal. Actually, it's a non-factor. I don't want to freak the internet out again. I made a minor mistake when I did mention that I was maybe having a heart attack as I laid on a hospital bed. That photo kind of riled the little slice of the interwebs that I'm involved in. So my apologies. Everything's good at my end.
Awesome. Drew, can you hear us now? Or can you give me...
How about now? Anything?
Gotcha. Yeah, perfect.
All right.
So give us a quick little rundown. Who are you? Where you come from?
Drew Coussens, former CIA contractor, former State Department contractor, former federal agent, and current writer, consultant advisor.
Bam. I love it. This is awesome. I'm glad you said your name before I tried to say it because I would have messed that up entirely.
All good.
It's Coussens, right? I was going to go with Coussens, but
A lot of people do, man.
makes sense. Quick comment just right off the bat. Dan C jumped in here and said, good morning, ass kickers. Let's light up today. I 100% we're going to get it done. Now, the topic, revolutionary leadership. This is one that could be really interesting. So I'm stoked to hear what you guys' first thoughts are. When you saw the email, or Jenny, when you came up with the topic, we'll start with you. What was going through your mind? Hit us up. What's your first thoughts? I think she might be frozen though. Perfect. Drew, how about yourself? You hit us with your first thoughts when you saw the email.
It depends on the context, man, but I'm pretty well versed in revolution. So we either fomented it, or we initiated it, or we responded to it. So how's that for an answer?
That's a good first spot to hang out. Jenny, how about yourself? What were your first thoughts when you came up with this?
It's seeing where we are, what's working, what's not, and then what does it take, and what am I willing to take responsibility for to move us in that direction that I see as the answer.
Interesting. Shaun, how about yourself?
Well, I didn't do a ton of thinking about it because I'm always interested to hear where the guests take the conversation. So it's a pretty broad topic, and I'm curious to see where we end up. But I will say this, because one of my jobs over here is to throw a knife and twist it in someone's chest. And it is revolutionary leadership, I feel, is often conflated into loud leadership, or revolutionary means rebellious. And so with that term often comes the connotation that we're about to lead a whole different way. And it's going to be big and bold and bright and noisy and way different. But I think that revolutionary leadership can also be super-duper quiet, in the shadows, making all kinds of things happen without many people aware of it. And so the term revolutionary, I just want to like maybe tamp it down a little bit. It doesn't mean fires in the streets or burning tires. It can be many things.
It's where it's funny because where I went with this when I first heard the topic when Jenny gave it to us was how to lead against the grain. Like how do we get things to happen that are outside the norm constantly? So like leading up the chain of command, which is very different than leading down the chain of command and those kind of things. So I'm pretty interested to see where this goes. To your point, Shaun, Drew sounds like he's got some pretty direct experience in this. I'm going to hit you, Drew, right off the bat. What's the challenge? The biggest, the big wall that you hit in terms of revolutionary leadership?
Recruitment is obviously probably one of the biggest hindrances. I think in other respects, we needed to have a core message when we were doing it abroad, obviously, that resonated with the population to kind of pull everything towards our side a little bit. And I think, like I said, like just getting the right people in place that are trusted, that have immediate credibility. I think that was probably the top of the list.
Buy-in, right? Like getting people to actually settle into the message you got going on. I like it. Jenny, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I think it's important to distinguish like the rebellion to the revolution. And I had a mentor tell me recently, she said, rebellions don't last, revolutions do. And to all aspects that you all hit on, if we look at revolution throughout history from, the Renaissance all the way to today, and of course there are so many in between, I think what the correlation is that there's always a raising of consciousness between each revolution. And so when the consciousness rises, what is not yet here, and to Shaun's point of the more silent, the more less showy, flashy, violent, big spectacle, so to speak, it really is, at least where I see that we're headed, is this, it's more about embodiment. It's less about, we've come from a long history of performance, being performative, everything on just in its facade. We've lost or really never found our moral compass. And so when we keep pursuing success in the manner in what we've been shown through the decades, without really asking what's really underneath all of that, I think the society that we have today really shows for that. And so there's a pain point, and we can all have our heads in our hands and feel really discouraged, or we can really get clear on, how have I been responsible for contributing to everything that I say that I don't like that I see? And it comes back to that embodiment. A lot of it has been the way that we've been shown leadership is, oftentimes we think, and especially for you guys, it's military. And then if we look at the business sector, a lot of times it's looked in a professional manner because we think it's about getting other people to do what we want. And the way that we've been modeled leadership is to take the power and the authority without the responsibility. And the way that I talk about responsibility in this manner, and I think the revolutionary part is self-responsibility. It's not the task, it's not the obligation, but it's understanding yourself so clearly on understanding yourself so deeply on an inner level, and being able to take responsibility and ownership of your actions. And this is a piece that might throw things out of whack for a lot of people, is if I go back to the example of taking power and authority without the responsibility, is baby boomers will blame Gen X and say they're lazy and they're this and they're that. And then Gen X will say millennials are fill in the blank. And then now millennials are saying Gen Z are X, Y, and Z. Is there truth in all of that? Sure. But why has that happened? That result that we see that we don't like, that bothers us, is mirroring back to us where we have not taken responsibility up chain.
Taking ownership for the things that we need to take ownership for, which is basically everything that involves our life. Shaun, you got any thoughts on any of this?
I do. So, Drew kind of got me thinking about the message, of course, if he has been in various locations and he's been responsible to adjust the calibration of that location through messaging, that's good leadership at any level, from the most junior to the most senior. Manipulating the message, I'll call it, and manipulation is either positive or negative, depending on how you interpret it. Manipulating the message to achieve the objective that you have been set to achieve. And so, messaging is important, and revolutionary leadership typically requires out-of-the-box thinking, because if it was standard issue leadership that could solve the problem, then it would be standard issue messaging. But typically, I've found anyway, when there needs to be quote-unquote a radical change, it requires some really smart people in some key positions to deliver a message that is not only intelligent, but is articulated in a way that is big buy-in. And not everyone can do that. Not every speaker can achieve buy-in at a level that creates revolutionary change. And so Drew probably knows way more about that than anyone on the panel, perhaps. Maybe we'll get him to touch on that a little bit more in a sec, but I will throw this out as well. One of the interesting things I feel about revolutionary leadership is the distinction, I'll call it, between revolutionary and quote-unquote normal leadership or standard issue leadership. What is the difference? Well, I'll just throw out a teaser to get us all thinking about it, maybe the listening audience, as it were. I'll use the military as the example. In the military, we've got some really great leadership, but that leadership is passed down like software. It's installed into the upcoming leaders. Me as a senior leader will install my software into the junior leaders, and as they rise up, they'll hang on to that software for the rest of their life, unless they do some sort of firmware or software upgrade. And so anything that I put into anyone will remain existent and stable and unchanging unless that individual realizes that they have to draw more and more and more software throughout their life to evolve, to adapt to the requirements of the day. So failure in normal leadership is commonly old software that is being held onto and is trying to carry through into the future. So there's two things to chew on, maybe.
Ooh, I like this. This is and the concept of old software being applied to new problems or perhaps new environments that it's not applicable at times, or maybe it is. But the thought I had was the collective. This program is a type of revolutionary leadership, in the fact that you and I saw a problem and we wanted to change what we saw. We saw a problem with the veteran community with the information not being at hand. So let's deliver it. That's a type in my own mind. But the question I have is, does it need to be disruptive? Like, can we lead in a revolutionary manner or lead a revolution without it being absolutely tear down the system prior to, or rip out the old software? Can we just update, or can we engage in a new way? Drew, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to do that. I mean, we practice that across the spectrum, downrange all the time. I mean, it depends how aggressive the foreign policy platform is, right? Can I mention previous administrations?
Sure.
The Obama administration at the time was kind of when I came into this, and that was the most aggressive, believe it or not, the most aggressive foreign policy that I'd experienced up until that point. And no matter what the face of the administration looked like, the foreign policy changes were abroad were extremely aggressive. Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen. I mean, they just go on and on. But there were variations, right? There were variations of how aggressive and in what country that took place. For example, in the Philippines, especially the southern Philippine Islands, there's a very hardcore Al Qaeda presence there, which is contrary to what most people think the Philippines is like. That was not that those actions weren't pursued as aggressively as say they were in Iraq or in Libya. And there's, like I said, there's shades of what you can do in each example to kind of further the cause of what your administration wants to push, the message they want to push, how involved they want to get, how violent or unviolent they want to get in each country, region, what have.
I think we lost it.
Dang, that was getting so good.
Yeah,
It was getting juicy.
It really
What
was.
the heck? True. Bring
Okay.
it back.
We'll get back here. No problem. Jenny, why don't you take us from there? What do you got thoughts on? Does it need to be disruptive? Do we need to throw the baby with the bathwater kind of thing?
Absolutely not. In short, it can be more subtle. And at the same time, there are usually two aspects to it, just as Shaun was saying. There's old structures and then there's new structure. And how cohesive can they work together to understand what the goal is with that each software, so to speak, has the old structure and the new structure. And can the old structure let go? Does it need to burn down violently? Like, I'll use industries, which, well, I mean, is Big Pharma going to go out kicking and screaming, right? Or is it just going to say, hey, we actually do want good health for people in a very honest manner? It's all dependent, right? So there are so many layers to that answer. In short, yes, but it's all free will and what people choose to do and what they want to usher in.
Shaun, go ahead. What do you got?
So if I can jump on that, then it's a great example, Big Pharma, and I don't want to use Big Pharma as a platform to start, poking Big Pharma in the chest. There's lots of other podcasts that do that, but it is a great example in this sense that you asked, well, will it go out kicking and screaming? Of course it will, because every minute that it goes out, it loses $1, and Big Pharma is predicated on a profit. And so, predominantly. And so it will go out kicking and screaming because of its bottom line. But it won't be forced out, because what it will do within its model called Big Pharma, there will be some form of revolutionary leadership that will twist and turn and recalibrate to the needs of the planet and wrap it up in a shiny little bow, and it will be delivered to the masses in a different way to still engage in profitability. As a whole, Big Pharma is chasing profit. The military as a whole is chasing peace and order. Doctors as a whole are chasing saving lives. All of these predominant or central themes to whatever industry, any individual or any team that we point our finger at, they are typically oriented towards a central vector, a central thrust. Big Pharma is profit. So they will find another way to make profit in a different shape or form 30 years from now. And so that is the case with leadership. When we look at leadership for any different unit, person, organization, industry, it generally has a central vector that it is pursuing. So the moment that you analyze the vector and assign what is it going to look like 5 years from now on that same vector, the leadership that it will take to look different but still be achieving its mission, that's what interests me. Because if it's a short timeline with a big change requirement, that isn't going to be achieved if it's standard issue leadership, normal leadership, I'll call it. Big changes require revolutionary thinking, out of the box thinking, different approaches. And so maybe that is one of the key elements of the requirement for revolutionary leadership.
So this concept,
and sorry, Chance.
Yeah.
I didn't see the message come through. As Drew bounced, is he out or is he in? Or
I'm still working on it. And
okay, check. Okay, sorry.
But the question comes because the word, when I use the word disruption, it clicked something in my brain a little bit earlier, and I'm wondering if we're trying to disrupt a system, if we're trying to change something drastically or in a large manner or something like that, at what point am I just being impatient? Because if I want to create change within a system or something like that, I can work the system. Eventually I can get to a position where I might be able to shift things, or maybe I can get to a leadership position. I can make changes, that kind of, shifting things from within an organization already. So at what point am I just being impatient, or what point am I going, no, this needs to absolutely change and we need to rethink this paradigm that we're sitting on? Because I think that designation, that line between those two things is quite important. So what do you think, Jenny?
Yeah, and something that I know Shaun spoke about in terms of nervous system recently on a short that I had seen. It's so individual, and we have to understand, this is where the self-responsibility of knowing myself. Am I being am I trying to expedite things at my own pace? Or is there really something here? And so life will always signal to you through whether you get in contact with people, like things start to open up and unfold, and you start to meet people and resources, and you really see like something's happening on the news. There's going to be a lot of reinforcement of the direction that you're going in. Or am I just causing a lot of bitterness and anguish and just like going to my happy hour circle and just complaining about the thing, right? And so it's not siloed, and it's not a yes or a no. It's really attuning to life and seeing what's in front of you and being really honest with in regards to that. Because like all of our nervous systems are regulated at different necessities, right? Like, so it's really just knowing yourself as well.
I like that. Shaun, you got any thoughts?
I do. So if you're talking about disruption, I believe that's the general question that you're asking, Chance, yeah? Disruption, I love disruption, man. That is why we started the podcast. And it wasn't like to cause anyone a pain in the butt. It's not like we wanted to make everyone upset or angry or discombobulated. We just wanted to do it differently. And so here's what I will say when it comes to disruption. Let's pretend for a moment we're all on a big team together. And I'm looking at my watch thinking, I want it changed by tomorrow because I'm impatient. But nobody else on the team wants to make those changes. Now I'm at an inflection point. I'm either going to stay in the organization and cause massive disruption over 24 hours, or I'm going to bounce. And I'm going to do it myself in my own little independent team called Shaun. And I'm not going to have anyone else around me. And I'm going to take those 24 hours to apply disruption that doesn't disrupt my team. It just disrupts the problem that I'm pursuing. And so, again, if I use Big Pharma as the example, if I've got a team around me and our mission is to disrupt Big Pharma on a timeline that is achievable, and my team is good, and I feel like we're all doing really well, we're calibrated, we're effective, we're efficient, the disruption on a team is enough for me. But if I look around and I feel like my velocity is different, or if I feel like I'm a disturbance to the force on the team, then I'm going to bounce and try to do it myself. And so revolutionary leadership, if we're simply using the term disruption, if I'm trying to disrupt, but by doing so, I am actually disrupting my team as well, I'll probably separate myself from the team maybe even try to do it solo, as I have done for a number of things in my life, just so that I'm not irking anyone around me. I love when we're all aligned, but when we're not aligned, how do you lead? Do you lead on the team revolutionary, or do you step out of the team and try to revolutionary change all by yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. And Drew, I'm gonna come to you here in a second here. I'm glad that you're back on, because you're right in the middle of a good story and then it cut out. You're like, lost you. But I just want to hit these comments real quick, because just to get through this here, we got April jumped in here. I think revolutionary leadership requires the skill to mobilize people from old ways to new ones, gaining buy-in and helping them see the value of change and lowering their resistance to change. I think that's accurate. Although it doesn't always have to be old to new. It can also be new to old. It can be a lot of different ways. Dan C jumped in here. He asks about maintaining your own integrity, and that's where I'm going to take this next. And then, of course, Celtic Mix jumps in here. He says, "Looking good, Shaun. Back the wheel." Always in. Drew, you want to finish your thought, or any thoughts on what you came into there?
Well, I mean, I think we're trying to make a direct correlation between ideas and performance, and I think there's a lot. I mean, throughout the history of geopolitics, there's been a lot of hindrances, right, to revolution, misinformation, propaganda. But I think nowadays, especially, dark money and everything else that is kind of against this, this refocus is effectively creating, roadblocks for this revolution. And you've got obviously the internet. You've got AI. You've got a lot of things that will effectively kind of keep it at bay, even from getting off the ground, so to speak, technologically. And if the money is not there to either resist or initiate these revolutions, it can be found somewhere globally in some interest and some motivation.
So the question then I have specifically on this, and also to your point, Shaun, is there's an ethical standpoint to this, right? Like, especially when it comes to your, I guess perhaps a moral standpoint to the revolution, is that if we're talking about doing it on our own, of just like, I'm going to fix whatever it is that I see needs fixing, or I'm going to change whatever I think needs changing, then I have to be morally secure enough in that what I'm doing is the right thing. Do I not? Or do you think there's going to be some...
Well, you might believe that you're morally secure, but that doesn't mean you're moral. I mean, you can be really confused in life and thinking that you're not confused. So
yeah. And I don't mean to say that you are right or accurate. I just mean, like, you need to really believe what it is you want to believe. Whereas I find if it's a group, it's much more easier. If you're leading a group around, you can kind of play to the mob a little bit. You can play to the masses a little bit more. So it takes less of a moral security when you have a group. Kind of like when you talk about served weapons or crew served weapons. When you have, it's a lot easier for crew served weapons to continue to fire on the enemy than it is one person shooting at a bunch of people, if that makes sense. Jenny, you got any thoughts on where I'm going with this?
When you say crew, repeat that part.
Okay.
Like,
so what I mean is, without the military standpoint, but do you think that the moral security that you need to lead a revolution is going to be it's going to be a lot higher if you're trying to do it yourself than if you can utilize a group to get away with more moral, less moral stringency? That makes sense?
sorry, there's a sound. There's something that's like
a weird glitch there too. There we go. Let me try this one more time. Do you think that there's more moral ambiguity working with a group, whereas there's more moral security in leading yourself? Does that make sense?
I feel like the two, so moral. So when you're working in a group and you understand who's in the group, are these people willing to keep you honest? Are they willing to poke holes in your theory? So it really depends. Like, you can be a part of a group that's really passive and just, agreeing to everything that you're saying. And so it always comes back to self. Like, no matter what, it's always going to point back to self. Can I be really brutally honest with myself? How, how am I causing this? Not from a place of blame, but from a place of responsibility, and really just, again, whatever that thing you're trying to tackle is. Also, like, am I willing to experiment and see what comes back? Like, there's oftentimes perfection will hold back any sort of experimentation. And when we're just constantly in our heads, that's also not a great place to be as well.
That's a good point. Shaun, you got any thoughts?
I do. So just to keep it maybe simple and take it in a little bit of a different direction, Chance, revolutionary leadership can be done by one person or by many. But what I feel is maybe relevant to today, our modern world, is it's way easier to do it today than it was 20 years ago. And so a nerd with a laptop and an hour of free time can cause a revolution currently with AI. And so you can create AI images, you can create AI news lines, and you can create chatbots that, and I've done it myself, where you can create a narrative that is false, but will quickly be picked up based on keywords and so on and so forth. So the power in the person's hand today is radically different than it was 20 years ago, and certainly 100 years ago. So as we move forward into our modern world, I feel that revolutionary leadership to some degree will grow. And that doesn't mean that revolutionary leadership is good if it's in the hands of a 14-year-old. And so there's something to think about.
Yeah. Drew, you got any thoughts on that?
No, man, I just continue on that linear trajectory with the emergence of AI. I mean, he's right that you can get for example, on social media, you'll get AI videos now permeating Facebook, and people think that AI video is real, and they'll get emotional about it on social media. So he's absolutely correct in saying that a 14-year-old that has knowledge of AI construction and has a message to push is going to get at least.
Dang. You get me every time we get to
That sucks.
it does suck. That's
a bummer. Can I just add one more thing? Because it's timely. It's coincidence, maybe, or stroke of the universe. A friend of mine, Craig Zielinski, actually sent me a DM this morning, and it was a link to a new AI model that I was unfamiliar with. I'm going to probably botch the title of it, but I think it was called bullshitdetector.ai. But if I remember it throughout the show, I'll throw it in there. Anyway, he sent me this link, and it effectively, what this AI does is it will determine whether a YouTube video is bullshit or not, whether it's AI created nonsense. And so I didn't have to put any links in to test it, because he said, give it a try. And my instant response to him was, dude, I put in some of my own videos and it called bullshit on them. What does that mean? So my point is this, that as new, we'll call them abilities or tools or powers or revolutionary sort of widgets appear, there are counterpoints to them as well. It's not like the world is heading towards the flaming dumpster fire. We're going in a direction that has good and bad. And so for every 14-year-old nerd who's trying to tear down the world, there's a 14-year-old who's developing a tool to prop up the world. And so revolutionary leadership is a good thing and a bad thing. And the bad has to be countered with the good, and the good's always being countered by the bad. And this is the way of humans to some degree. So revolutionary leadership is an important topic, but I feel like as the months tick by, it's going to become more and more relevant.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that. And I got there's a couple comments here, and then I have a thought on it. It said, Witness Protection says, well, I think revolutionary leadership is adaptability and versatility. And when it's framed revolutionary, what comes to mind is a subversion of the status quo. I think there's a connotation to the word revolutionary, which is something that need to be brought up for sure. And then Littlefoot jumps in here and says, I don't know what's real anymore. Pretty sure Blade is a documentary at this point. yeah, I agree. But to that point, I see a lot on Instagram and TikTok and things like that are now AI generated videos of inspirational speakers saying, oh, well, if you want to do this, you're going to, and it's not replicating another person. It's just replicating a persona versus an actual person, and they're passing on ideas as if this is a real person trying to teach you something, but it's not at all. And it definitely needs to be it's something we all need to look at, and because the AI is getting better and better and better, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. What do you got, Shaun?
That's right. So AI is getting better. We've all seen that pattern. We know that there's a bunch of nonsense avatars out there, but simultaneously, as these nonsense avatars are being created, humans are slipping in adjacently and running a parallel track at the same time. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, into my feed, an influencer dropped in with just a standard issue reel. And it was a female who'd been doing BJJ for 3 years, and now she's positioning herself as a leadership management consultant individual based on her BJJ, like based on nothing else other than her BJJ. She is now a leader and a coach. 3 years, man. 3 years. I don't care if you went to BJJ every single day, twice a day. Doesn't make you a leader. It makes you someone who's involved in a sport or a martial art. You're not a leader. And you're also not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a scientist or a CEO or a CFO. You're someone who's been on the mats for 3 years. But now that can be conflated adjacently with all of the other nerdery that's being created with AI, so that you can almost stand out a little bit because you're a real person doing real things, making muffins and leading on the mats. And so we're in a position now in our world where AI is almost adjacently propping up non-leaders because it contrasts against avatar leaders, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, tracking. Jenny, you got thoughts?
Yeah. So if we talk about, and I'm slightly pulling it in a different direction. So if we take jujitsu and let's bring up the elephant in the room, right? The Andre Galvao situation. What we're seeing is when you take spirituality out of the equation in everyday life, because there's such a massive religious wound in the world, we then, because it's innate to us to seek for something higher than ourselves, when you remove God, then we're going to place it onto something else. And whatever you find yourself spending a lot of time in, let's use jujitsu, then you're going to place it on this one person. And we try to create saints out of, people, because again, we're seeking for this perfection. And that nothing fake can sustain if you know yourself very well and you're constantly willing to audit and to attune to what's happening in your life. And I know it's vague in a lot of ways, but everything in life, like politicians are simply a mirror to what's happening in the household where people aren't taking responsibility. It's everything that we see as suffering, like in society, all the things that are difficult to watch and to witness is really only ever pointing back into your own life where you're not assuming that self-responsibility.
I'm tracking with what you're saying, and I think to a degree you're right, but there are lots of things in society that don't reflect the way I live my life as well. So I think this is it's a point of contention, but it is a valid one. Drew, you got any thoughts on anything now that we got you back?
I'm still, I mean, everything is so esoteric. And, obviously we deal with a lot of, you were talking about leadership and where leadership software needs to be updated. And I think a lot of that has to do with have they been boots on ground recently? Are they aware of the current environment. For case in point, for military leadership is Ukraine. I mean, the war's changed dramatically just over the course of the last decade, and drone warfare, all kinds of electronic warfare that didn't exist in prior conflicts. You're not going to have an understanding of that unless you've spent time in the mix. And I think that's where leadership is critical, because if you're just using this kind of self-update, you work off of everything that you've ever learned up to that point, but haven't had an experience, a new environment, and you're just going to be pushing that same message. That's kind of backing up a little bit, but I think that's relevant to revolution and its core concepts.
100% agree. Shaun, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Contextually, 20 years ago, the updating of the firmware or the software, you had time. But today, in our modern world, you've got a day or two, maybe a week. And in a week, things have changed radically in most battle spaces nowadays. And the battle space, using Ukraine as an example, is not just a battle space that most people hear that and they'll think a muddy trench, or they'll think a forest, or they'll think a city, or whatever the case is. It's everything. It's cyber warfare. So the digital space is radically changing on a per second basis, as is the AI battle space, as is the standard issue communication battle space. So there's lots of things that people don't consider when it comes to revolutionary leadership, revolutionary warfare, revolutionary business. A lot of things change rapidly when it's revolutionary in our today's society. Go back to the revolutions of old, the 1700s is an example. Things changed radically, but they took quite a long time. You could have a revolution this afternoon and it'd be wrapped up by this evening, generally speaking. The fallout, though, of that revolution, most people don't see it. They'll see the headlines of a change, but they won't understand what the change really means at a deeper level, on a multi-generational level, which is part of revolutionary leadership, I feel. If anyone out there is hearing revolutionary leadership as I'm making changes today for today, I'm trying to make changes for like 3 generations from now. I'm trying to adjust minds for a life that none of us can imagine right now. And so revolutionary requires not just making changes like to the stuff in front of you, but thinking like, I'm trying to change it for my boys, for my sons. How do I do that? So to think revolutionary, you've got to think different. And I'm not saying that I'm a wild out of the box thinker, but I've met enough out of the box thinkers to understand that your average citizen isn't a revolution maker, but the average citizen has made some of the best revolutionaries in our past. So there's something to chew on.
I take that. There's a great example. It's actually from Ukraine, of old ways coming back into new technologies. And I follow this gentleman. I can't remember his name. I'll have to find it. I'll put it in the show notes. But he demonstrates a lot of the new things that they're finding in Ukraine, a lot of the different tactics that are changing. One of them is thermal imagery. You know, have thermals on your weapon sights. And the thing that they've found works really well to defend against thermal is an umbrella. Because it creates standoff, right? And it's got that thing. But it's an old, simple, analog idea that defeats technology. Similarly to how they started getting into trench warfare, because mobility got removed because the weaponry changed. And like the funny thing is, I find that every time that there's a massive shift in technology or advancement or something like that, more often than not, the answer is usually analog. Usually, like, you got to go back 3 or 4 steps to readdress some of the original problems 4 steps behind it, rather than just do the new thing now. What do you got, Shaun?
You might have been talking about a guy called Falcon Claw. Anyway, Falcon Claw on Instagram. Just let me throw this in real quick, then I'm going to get off the microphone for about 10 minutes. I watched a video this morning that they had to put out, and the video was all about this. Listen, you idiots. Don't buy yourself a freaking thermal blocking umbrella and walk around in a big ass open field thinking that you're now invisible. That was their entire video this morning. They had to explain to the Foolios that an umbrella doesn't make you like Romulan cloaking device not there. And so they had to explain you've got to hide in trees. You've got to be like, etc. And so though it may be a revolutionary idea that's a throwback to the past, the umbrella, there's still people who will buy an umbrella and stand in the rain getting soaked because they don't know how to open an umbrella. It isn't revolutionary unless it actually changes its scale. And sadly, our population, generally speaking right now, not all of it is ready for like intelligent change. So you can buy all the umbrellas in the world, but not everyone will use them appropriately.
That's a great point. And you're absolutely right. It is Falcon Claw. That's the guy I'm tracking for sure. It's a good one. Jenny, you got any thoughts?
Lots.
I can come back to you in a second if you want to ponder it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. No worries. We'll come back to it. You're absolutely right, Shaun. There's too many people that will think a quick analog fix is the same for everything. And I mean, this is a similar conversation in the firearms world, right? People think that, oh, well, because I have a gun, I'm safe. No, because you have training and a gun, you become safer. That doesn't make you safe. The same thing with martial arts. Oh, well, I took a self-defense seminar over a weekend. Now I'm safe. No, you're a little bit safer, but it's the skill that brings forward the practice, the leadership. To your point, Jenny, that you made earlier, is that it's the personal leadership of I'm going to change my behavior or my way of doing things or my development in order to be the example, show other people what can be done. At least that's the way I interpret it. Does that make sense? Am I tracking what you were saying earlier, Jenny?
Yeah, and actually, I think leadership is actually a proxy desire. It's something deeper that a lot of people don't think about, because why is that such a buzzword or something that so many people try to attain in being a good leader? It's a desire by proxy to bring you to your highest potential. And when you're on that path, whether through your profession, through your family, through hobbies, all of that honest moving towards an advancement of that is to bring you to your highest potential, but not just because you can then say, I'm a black belt, I'm a this, I have a gold medal, like not the external, but who you become, how your identity shifts along the way, so that the goals aren't just hollow. And it's important that it's measurable, yes, but there's substance to it.
I dig it. Shaun, any thoughts?
I do. So if it's revolutionary, why is there a need for revolution? I suppose revolution is typically because there's a significant change required. And so then what's a significant change that is required? It's leadership that needs to change. But is it the leadership that is the focus, or is it the distortion that is the focus? And so if I'm at the start line of, do I create a revolution or not? I'm not going to create the revolution, quote unquote, against the current leadership. I'm going to create a revolution against the distortion of reality, the distortion of the facts, the distortion of the taking as in the wrong direction. So it's distortion, typically, not leadership, that is the real root of a change requirement. Our planet ain't going to identify a single individual and say, we're going to upend our planet just because of a guy with a name. What it will upend itself for is the distortion that a guy will create regardless of his or her name. And so the revolution is about adjusting distortion, not about adjusting the people in leadership positions. What do you think?
Ooh, Drew, I'm going to hit you first. What do you got?
I'm trying to keep up with difficulty, so keep rolling, and then I'll.
Rush, jump in after. Jenny, you got some thoughts on what Shaun just hit us with?
Yeah, so the distortion often lies in the people of leadership. That's the issue. It's a humanity issue. It's not like, and it's helpful if we use like specific examples. Yeah, like let's bounce on that. So like if the distortion lives within the individual that's in the position to lead, because again, people look up to leaders, people in positions to lead, and if they carry a distortion, and some of that is subjective as well, right? And so if there's distortion in an individual, can they see it in themselves? That's the self-responsibility aspect.
I like that. That's a really good question to ask, is if the distortion is internal, can you even see it? That's a great point. Drew, I'm going to come to you now. What do you got? Thoughts?
I mean, we're still talking about distortion because I mean, I think it's rampant in leadership nowadays. I think it's crazy.
No.
So
Killing me. No, I lost you, Drew. I mean,
Dang, it's killing me. It's killing me.
Killing me. If you could quickly try to jump in and jump out, and then we'll do some final thoughts because we're actually running out of time. Because this is.
Hey, Chan. So let's can we get it back to kind of a more umbrella mode or an overarching theme of revolutionary leadership? We're kind of getting a little into the weeds now. So if we just step it back a little bit, I'd be curious to hear from you two, and maybe if Drew can get back in, what you feel. You don't have to define it word for word, but what do you feel? Your vibe, your sense of it. What is the difference between revolutionary leadership and standard issue leadership?
That's a good question. I'll jump on it right off and give Jenny a second of thought to think through this. But I'd say the biggest difference for me is the certainty that change is necessary, versus I find general leadership to be they already know where they're going. They already know what the job is. They already know the line they're going to take. And revolutionary leadership is more about like, we need a left turn right now, versus let's just stay the course for a little bit. That's my separation. And
So then if I can ask you a follow-on question, if you feel that revolutionary leadership is not like a linear direction, it's a hard left or a hard right, you are now thinking that's revolutionary. Do you define revolutionary in your mind as a massive change, or as a direction that nobody had ever thought? Are you defining it based on the initial state, or are you defining it as the end result? Because there's many ways that you can metric revolutionary leadership, and you've just metriced as, I don't like it going this way, I want it to go hard left. So what are your thoughts now?
I don't think it needs to be a 90-degree turn for it to be revolutionary.
Yeah, it's not the angle that I'm focused on. Yeah.
I just think it needs to be enough of a shift that you're no longer walking in the footsteps of the person in front of you, if that makes sense. So it could just be a couple of degrees off center, or it could be 179 degrees going back that way. But it's just so long that you're not in the steps of the person that had come before you. That's where I go. Yeah. Drew, I got you now. I hate to do this. We are just about over an hour here, and I wish we had more time. I really want to be able to engage. Drew, I'm going to get you back on for sure. We'll get your connection sorted out and be good to go from there. It's probably something on our end. But any final thoughts on revolutionary leadership? Anything at all?
Man, I missed so much discussion. Yeah, I mean, I just think revolutionary leadership is going to be a constant. It just depends on how technology changes, right? It's going to be it's going to have to be adaptable, and it's going to have to to push a message that potentially conflicts with disinformation, AI, and all kinds of other trials and tribulations.
I'm with you on that one. Jenny, you got any final thoughts? For anything we got so far today? We covered quite a bit. What do you got?
So going back to a point that was made a couple times throughout is no matter how far we go into the future, no matter what technologies we have, everything will always point back to the oldest thing, which is ourselves. And can we come back to ourselves? Because now we're, I know I'm bringing a different direction. We can go to Mars. We're gonna travel to outer space, and there's all like we're getting farther and farther from self. And no matter what, the truest thing is always it's just going to live within yourself, within self-responsibility and ownership.
I dig it. Shaun, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just don't want anyone out there to think that revolution means burn it all down. Tear down energy, or when you're trying to tear something down, is easy. I mean, tear down energy is some of the easiest energy to seek. But having the nuance to apply Occam's razor, where you keep what is working, you get rid of what is unnecessary to create an efficient and effective solution, or what the mission required, molding it into that through Occam's razor. Those are two wildly different things. Tear down energy is lame. Sophisticated nuance, manipulation via Occam's razor is cool. And so if anyone thinks that revolutionary leadership means like punch everything in the throat, well, that's not really how it's done. Though it does get headlines, it isn't as effective as maybe working in the shadows with some nuance.
I agree with that one too, and it reminded me of a really good example from explosive work. If I want to blow a building down, I can use as much explosives as I want. Right? Like I can use a lot. I can just keep adding, and I can blow it all to pieces. But what people don't remember is that then you have to clean it up. Then you got to bring everything back together. You got to be able to dig that spot out if you want to use it again. And I find a lot of people want to just blow things up rather than very specifically, very methodically using precision demolitions to be able to punch a hole in a wall just so that you can get through that wall, rather than blowing the whole freaking building down. Which, hey, yes, it is fun, but it's a lot different than being able to surgically hit what you want, which is, I think, what we need to seek. Other than that, I got no other thoughts. Next time we're going to get Drew back on, and his connection is going to be way better, and we'll be able to have a conversation with him as well. So I really appreciate it. Drew, if you can still hear us, I really appreciate you being on. Jenny, thank you so much. Shaun, this has been awesome. As we all continue to learn, build, and grow, we'll see you next week.
Gmo.
Thanks everybody for watching and being part of the collective. If this has sparked any thoughts or resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us grow and keeps the conversation going. We'll see y'all next time.